Hello everyone, this is Robert, and this is the Gweike Cloud Pro 50 watt CO2 laser. They reached out to me and they sent me this laser for review, so keep that in mind. However, the content of this video and any subsequent videos on this is completely my own, and they have no say whatsoever like all my review videos. So in this first video, what I want to do is just kind of your basic unboxing. What does this thing look like when you get it in the mail on the pallet with all the little accessories? What accessories do you get? Classic unboxing treatment. So that's going to be this video. As always, check the chapters, skip around, do what you got to do. But I'll be covering, basic kind of specs and sizes and weights and how this thing is to kind of, get set up and all that good stuff. Then we'll get into the actual functionality of it later. But I'm really excited because CO2 lasers are much more up my alley. I think they're much more usable than the diode. They do come with the additional price. This thing's about $3,500 all in for all of these pieces. So it's a lot more money than the diode laser, but I think you get a lot more for the money. If you can swing it, I think they're much more versatile than doing a diode laser setup. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with what it comes with, and then we'll start taking apart all these boxes and getting it set up. So before we open all these boxes, which I'm dying to do, let's go over some quick basic specs. So this is a 50 watt CO2 laser, and the CO2 laser is a little bit different than a diode laser in what it can cut. Obviously a lot more power than your traditional 10 or maybe 20 watt diode. 50 watts gives you a lot better cutting capabilities and engraving, and because it's CO2 it has a different wavelength, so you can do actually a lot more materials. And we'll cover this in the actual functional test, but you can just do a lot more with this. It also has a really interesting 5 megapixel camera. So a lot of these newer CO2 lasers are now coming with some sort of camera or vision system, so you can actually see in the software where your things are positioned, and it can even kind of like superimpose over top of it, so you can kind of get a visual preview of what you're doing. So I'm really looking forward to that feature because I don't have that on mine, and that's something I'm very much looking forward to. These also have Wi-Fi and network capability, which makes it nice. I'll probably maybe demo it over here. The computer's over there, so it's nice to be able to talk to them over the network. It does have a proprietary cloud software. However, you can use this directly with Lightburn, which is my favorite laser program. So you don't have to rely on their software. You can use Lightburn, which is a huge plus. The Pro version has a cutting size of, I think, 20.8 by just under 12. It's like a little over 20 inches by 11.8 or 510 by 300 millimeters for all you metric people. So pretty decent, but it does have like the dropout bottom or whatever. We'll see how that works. To where you can cut things larger than the actual work area itself. So that's pretty interesting. It has rotary. I think maybe the rotary, oh no, the rotary is somewhere else. I think it's over there. It has a rotary, and then it also has, this is like the air filter system, and then up here you have the exhaust. And if anyone's followed my channel and you've seen what I've built for my laser, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with CO2 in terms of exhaust and cooling the laser and things like that. But these are the main components that go along with it, and it comes with all this nice stuff. So you get the fan, you get the exhaust, you get the cooling, and then you get the rotary. So that being said, let's dig right in and see what everything actually looks like. I'm starting with the unboxing of the rotary attachment. Now, the big difference between the standard, I think they call it the basic, and the Pro is the addition of the rotary. So this is, kind of that extra that you get. And it's decent, it's nice. I think it's sturdy enough to hold mugs or tumblers or whatever else that you're going to be engraving. Admittedly, I have done very little rotary engraving, and I actually do not have a rotary attachment for my current laser, so maybe I'm not the best one to judge this, but it looks fine. It's basically just a motor with some other pieces and some rollers, and yeah, it will definitely spin whatever you're looking to engrave. So next up on the unboxing is the exhaust fan. I did check with them, and this comes with all of the kits. This is a 60 watt, relatively large kind of inline blower fan, and a couple of the matching ducts to go with it. And I think there's even a reducer in here. And yeah, this is roughly, I think, 6-inch diameter, something like that. And this is for removing the exhaust from the actual machine and blowing it outside. And next up, before we get to the actual laser itself, is this air filter box. And this also comes with both of the models. So once again, the only difference between the Pro and the Basic is just that rotary. And the air filter box is, well, exactly what it sounds like. Also has an air pump. Inside the box, though, it also has the consumable pack, which you can see here, which just has basically a lot of test materials, basically, and you can actually use these for cutting. So pretty cool. So it comes with that. Inside we have the actual air filter box, which is this metal box with this kind of like acrylic top to it, and that houses the air filter as well as the air assist pump. The air filter, obviously, the air comes out of the back of the machine into this box through the air filter and then back out, and then you exhaust that through the duct fan outside. It does a pretty reasonable job removing a lot of the particulates, but this isn't something that you're still going to run, you know, completely inside your house, inside your office. You know, think of those ridiculous Glowforge videos where they're showing it like in the living room. No, lasers should never be run in your living room, ever. This still needs to be vented outside, regardless of what kind of filtration you have. In addition, we've got the air assist pump that's kind of in the front of this, and that is used for the air assist, which actually kind of blows out the debris as you're cutting, and that's really what gives you much, much better cutting performance. And yeah, nice little metal box, all kind of self-contained, and yeah, well thought out. So that's what this is. I guess I don't really do a lot of unboxing videos because normally you would start by showing like this on the pallet and everything, and I forgot to start there, but here's what it looks like on the pallet. Yeah, that's what it looks like when it gets all delivered to you. And it does have like a tip sensor and all that good stuff. This is going to be a freight shipment. This isn't going to be a UPS or FedEx ground kind of thing. You're going to get this as a freight shipment. So just keep that in mind. And I do believe shipping is extra because of that. It is maybe a little bit unreasonable to have a freight shipment be, you know, free shipping, but just something to keep in mind when you're factoring in the price. You're going to want to factor in a little bit extra. Getting the crate apart is relatively simple if you've never done it before. It's just got these little tabs, just bend them and then the top comes off, and that's pretty much as easy as that is. And then on the very top you can see the honeycomb bed, and this is really nice that it comes with a honeycomb bed because that is the right way to cut things on a CO2 or other high-powered laser. And then, yeah, underneath we can see the laser with the strap, so we're going to have to figure out how to lift this out of there. So I'm going to have to go grab my wife for some help with this. The machine itself really isn't all that heavy. I think it's about 43 kilograms, which is about 95 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's really not that heavy. You could probably manage on your own, but it is a bit large and awkward. So me and my wife just kind of lifted it up, kicked the box out of the way, set it down, and then I have this stand. It's actually the same type of stand that I have on my laser. It's this kind of customizable stand from Rockler that, pretty nice and sturdy. Had an extra one of these, so I'm going to set on this for the remainder of this kind of review. And yeah, pretty much as simple as that. Just lift it out of the box, kick the box away, and then lift it on top of the stand, and you are good to go. If you're using this with a workbench or something like that, I'll talk about dimensions later, but you got to have a pretty beefy workbench and at least some space behind it for the exhaust. You know, the marketing materials for all these things are just a joke because, yeah, it can sit on your desk or something, but where's the exhaust go? That you have this big 6-inch tube that needs to go down below it. How are you going to manage that? It's kind of weird. But anyway, that's what this looks like when it's all unboxed and on top of the stand. The last final piece of unboxing, there's some stuff on the inside of this. Some extra tubes and like little accessory pack. You know, if you've ever gotten a 3D printer, it's, you know, like the little Allen keys and all the other little accessories that kind of come with it. Nothing too special or noteworthy in there. But what's kind of nice is all of this foam is there to keep the gantry from sloshing around and moving in transit, which is actually quite important because on this style of laser, the CO2 tube is actually mounted on the moving gantry. Usually on kind of the bigger, more industrial machines, it's actually at the back, but this is actually mounted on the gantry, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, just kind of nice that this whole foam section keeps everything nice and fixed in place for transit. So here's what it looks like unboxed. I still obviously have to peel off all this film. And yeah, fit and finish is decent. You can see we got these nice big top glass panels, and then the actual case itself is metal. It's kind of just powder coated, sheet metal, but it's relatively thick, kind of more industrial, less, like Apple designed, but it's functional, it works, and it looks decent. And the only control surface up here is this little button here, and it's kind of like an arcade button more than anything, but it's fine. One of the downsides to this laser, it doesn't have like an LCD, there's no touch panel, there's nothing here, there's no controls, which is a little bit of a bummer. I usually like having a control panel on a laser like my other one that I have. So yeah, a little bit of a downside. And you can see this little stripe here in the middle, this is actually the camera. So if we kind of lift this up, might be out of frame, but that is the little camera which faces down and gives us a view of the build surface. And this thing is kind of on like these hinges, and it does kind of stay mostly. I really wish it had like the gas struts on here, but this works just fine. And then inside here we can see the laser head and the tube. The big difference with this machine and I think like the Glowforge, the FSL Muse, and some of the others is the laser tube is actually mounted here. Normally the laser tube is in the back cabinet, bounces off a mirror, and comes in, but this one's actually on the gantry itself, and we'll kind of take this apart later and I'll show you all that good stuff. But I've got the laser head here, there's actually a mirror straight that way, so it actually bounces off of there, and then into here. So it makes the mirror alignment a little bit less complex and most likely will require a little bit less adjusting. We've got nice linear rails on everything. Everything looks pretty nice. Fit and finish is decent. We've got the little adjustment knob for the air assist. They call it air conditioning. There are a few Chinese translation things in here, but nothing is too critical. And then in the back, all the way over here, we have the exhaust fan. You've got the hookup for the rotary. And then I'm guessing, yeah, this is for rotary, gantry, and then I don't know what that is. We'll see what that is later. And then, yeah, let's kind of look in these cubbies because there's actually some interesting stuff tucked away in there. Then we'll flip it around and look at the backside. I forgot to mention, this drawer pulls out kind of completely and just kind of exposes the whole thing. So in theory, I guess you might be able to laser underneath here, maybe, limited work area, but you can also slide a piece of material in here, and then there's a little tiny slit back here to where you can theoretically push material in, but this is really thin. I think that's maybe like an 1/8 inch, so what, 3-4 millimeters, something like that. So it's an interesting little feature that you could slide a piece all the way through, but just by removing the tray, you can definitely set larger things in here. And this is also how the honeycomb mounts, so it just kind of slides in. Actually, let's put that in right now. I actually like this way of doing it. Mine just kind of sits on top of a surface. And so this one's kind of locked in place, and then you can just kind of slide it in and out. That's actually kind of nice, a little bit better than what I've got. And then this just slides right underneath of it. This is kind of like the chip tray. This is where all the stuff is going to fall underneath, and that's what you're going to want to clean out. The bottom of my laser is just filled with all the little cutouts that come through the honeycomb. So we're looking kind of inside the left-hand side. So there's your little laser head over there. You can see what back in there, that's the laser tube. You can see the end of it. And then let's see right there, you can see the first mirror that reflects into the laser head. And then down here, you can see this little radiator. So I believe that's probably the cooling for the laser. And then over here, this is like the electronics. So that's kind of interesting. All this is tucked in here. And then this bar that you see right here is LEDs. There's, I think, one of these on either side. There might be one on the back. No, there's just one on the left and right side for illumination on the inside. So let's swap to the other side and I'll show you what's over there. So this is the other side of the laser, and you see a nice cable track. There's a lot of nice cable carriers in here, which is kind of cool. And then you see right back here, this is like a coolant reservoir. So it's a blue coolant reservoir, which is nice. It's not just purified water. This will inhibit algae growth, things like that. So that's back in here, and somehow you would take off this cap to refill it if you needed to refill it. But looking at the laser, which you can't see in this, it's filled with this blue fluid. So that's back in there, and on the other side you can see the laser power supply and some of the other stuff. Now, why is any of this notable? Well, on the traditional CO2 laser like the one I have, or some of the bigger industrial like you know, the red sails, or the was it the 5070s, things like that, the bigger lasers, usually all this stuff is external. On the inside of my laser, it's pretty much completely empty inside. So to have the, this side, the coolant reservoir there, and then on the other side you have the radiator, the full coolant for the laser head is all internal in this machine, which is kind of nice because, as you will see in a few minutes, there's a lot of stuff to hook up to this once we do the exhaust, the air assist, and everything else. You know, this takes a whole stand like what I've got on with all the accessories. So having one less thing is kind of nice. And the fact that the radiator and the water pump and everything is kind of internal, kind of cool. So here is the back of the machine. You can see all the hinges and stuff like that. This is the central exhaust. We've got a little 12-volt fan. I am curious to see if this is going to be powerful enough for everything, but we'll see. And you can see this little strip down here. This pulls out. This is that pass-through. So this is the material that you can pass through the whole machine. It's relatively thin. I don't know if this would be something I'd use a whole lot. Maybe I wish this was a little bit bigger, but you can just stick stuff out the front of the machine. But this just allows you to kind of go through the whole length of it. But obviously you'd have to pull it out from the wall, stuff like that. Over here we have the air pump wire and the, they call it the wind pipe. It's labeled as the wind pipe, but this is the inlet for the air assist. So that's what that is. That connects to a little box. I'll go over that in a second. And over here we have the power, the switch, USB and Ethernet. So yeah, not a whole lot on the back of this at all. And then a little example of how to exhaust the smoke exhaust solution. So yeah, let's take a look at the little air filter smoke box. So here's the air filter and air compressor kind of combination. So inside this little part right there, kind of in this front section, it has a little air pump. That is for the air assist. And then back here, this is that little air filter cartridge that I showed earlier. So this kind of pulls out, this whole thing comes out, and this is the air filter. And if we kind of look at the back, so the air comes in underneath, kind of like up like that through the filter and back out. Not the most convenient or probably efficient air path, but it probably works. Also on the inside of here, let's go like this. Also on the inside of here, like right here, there's a little fan that kind of blows that way, so that helps. Like I said, we will see how that whole thing works. The one downside to this is this lid is, I guess, just cosmetic. It doesn't really do anything. Everything's sealed. There's magnets 1, 2, 3, 4, and I think it's supposed to hold this down in place, but maybe you can see, yeah, it's a little bit warped. This whole thing is warped up a little bit, which is kind of a bummer. So this is just kind of one of those fit and finish things that in pictures, this looks really nice and sleek and everything, but it's just kind of folded, stamped, powder coated metal. It's a little bit rougher than you'd think in person, and you know, this lid's a little janky. So thankfully, this really isn't a critical piece, and this is just fit and finish. It shouldn't affect the function, but yeah, anyway. And on the back of this thing, we've got the air that comes out, goes to the machine, and then the connection. So these are the two connections that were on the back of the actual machine. So I went to set up the exhaust with the air filter box and everything, and I ran into my first issue. They're assuming that you're going to put the air filter box directly next to it, and only on one side. You can't have a choice of either side. You can only put it on one side. They made the cable way, way too short, and it's not even close enough to fit it down below, so I have to extend that cable and make it bigger, and this is just ridiculous. The machine itself is like 38 inches wide, about a meter wide, and then the box itself is like 200, 250 millimeters, another 9.5 inches. So you're taking up a massive amount of width real estate on a workbench to have both of these side by side. Makes a lot more sense to have it down below. So you will most likely have to extend the cable. It's just a 4-pin cable, so it's nothing too special, but come on, I mean, put it right next to it, that's kind of silly. So I had to make a new cable for that. Okay, so here is how everything is hooked up. They gave you the right length of tubing for this. These were a little bit too small, so these are like really being clamped down and kind of squished a little bit. Should be fine, but that's maybe a little bit annoying. And yeah, it'd be really nice if, come on, like this is gonna go right next to it every single time. Come on, that's a bit optimistic. So anyway, I think everything is hooked up. I just gotta do the power and the Ethernet over here. I'm gonna try and get this thing going on Wi-Fi first, but yeah, let's see how that goes. So I got this turned on for the very first time, and there's already something that I really don't like, is when it's on, the exhaust fan's on, the pump's on, the air assist is on, like everything turns on, and there's really no way to select what's on and what's off. On mine, I kind of manually added little switches to where I can turn these things on and off. Some lasers have it in the control software, but this is just on all the time, which is a little weird. What I'm doing now is connecting to the Wi-Fi. The little button over here, if you hold it down for like 5 or so seconds, it starts blinking red, the thing will show up as an access point. It comes with this little instructional page, and you connect, basically you connect to it over Wi-Fi, its access point, and then you go to 192.168.20.1, port 8080, all on here. And then you can access it and set your local Wi-Fi. So I'm selecting my country. So you select your SSID, all that good stuff. If you've done anything with Wi-Fi devices in the past few years, you know how this goes. So we're just gonna select the US for country, and then we should be good to go. Oh, it's not listed as USA, it's listed as America, which I can get on board with that. Okay, so I fiddled with the Wi-Fi a little bit, and yeah, the instructions are fine. It just sometimes takes a little bit of time to kind of get working. It is definitely on my network, connected over Wi-Fi. I don't have anything plugged in, and everything seems to be working fine. So I am in the cloud software. I'm going to go over all this software stuff later, but there's basically three main ways to control this. You've got the cloud software, you have an offline software, and then you also can use Lightburn, which is kind of the big selling feature for me. So I'm just in the cloud software right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit print, which I hate that they call it printing. We're going to click that, and then you should see that button go green over there. It says it's downloading. It's relatively slow to download stuff, but yep, that is successful. And yeah, I'll zoom in, we'll hit print, and that'll be pretty much the end of this video. You can see I already did a little test print over there. Now I'm even saying it. I hate myself. I'll hit this button. Let's see what happens. And there it goes. It's doing its thing. This is just default settings, so maybe it can go faster, things like that. I wouldn't worry about this too much, but yeah, it seems to be doing the thing. This is just 2mm cardboard. This is what it came with. So we'll kind of let that do its thing. I think overall, I guess while this is doing its thing, let's talk about kind of the experience. I'm pretty overly happy with the fit and finish, the build quality, and the unboxing experience. I think like so many products today, I feel so old saying this, but so many products today, they just don't really think through from the user standpoint, how the user's gonna feel about it. There was no manual included with this, which I guess is fine. It's supposed to include a manual. I didn't end up finding one. I emailed them about it. They didn't really get back to me. The cable being too short was really annoying, but not really a big deal. There's a couple things that we will see how it addresses when we get into the software standpoint. I'm not really sure how the autofocus works if you don't have their little QR code stuff. I think you might just have to manually set it, and that kind of sucks. It has an autofocusing head with a motor, but I think it only works with the camera vision system, and I think the camera vision system really only works the right way, or the full featured way, when it is being used with the cloud software. So that might be a little bit of a bummer, but we'll figure that out later. And you can see I'm constantly brushing stuff away. The glass looks fantastic, but in a workshop, it's kind of the easiest thing to get really dirty and dusty, so it is what it is. But yeah, overall, the build quality does look really good. This is a nice modern take on the old style laser that I have and that I'm more familiar with. The hardware is fantastic. We'll see how the interface with Lightburn works, but hardware-wise, this is great, and I fully suspect that the 50 watts will be an actual 50 watts, no problem. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Wish it had a screen. That would be really nice. But other than that, pretty good unboxing experience overall. One thing to note, because of course I have to talk about this, I do have a coupon code, Cowan20, linked down below in the description. It gives you some amount of money off. I think if you use like the referral link and the coupon code, the retail of this is like $3,500 as you see it with the Rotary, but when you use the coupon code and the referral link, it goes down to $3,000. So I don't know, pretty good deal, something to consider. I'm not forcing you to buy it, but those links are down below if you're interested in getting one of these. It's a pretty good deal. So I'll leave the video at that. We'll just kind of let this finish out. And then in the next video, we'll kind of go over the software and some of the other usability features. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.